Hi guys, so it's over. The pain of the 2021 season is now finished. We can all kick back, relax, and just start worrying about who's coming in, who's going, who's going to be our next manager, where are these teams coming from in the Europa Conference League, what are they like, how easy is it to get a passport there, and what's the coronavirus doing in those countries. So a nice easy time to start thinking about. So today's game, there we go, finishing on a high with a nice 4-2 win over Leicester City, who have sat at the top of the table in the top four for something like 30 plus games of the season, slipping out due to us winning and Chelsea losing. So a great result in the end. Finishing on a win is always good. The manner of the win was rather disappointing. To be honest with you, watching the game, I felt that we were very lackluster for a lot of it. I felt that we were really not bothered. It didn't seem like anyone really cared and wanted to get there. It was almost like they felt the same as we did. We just want the season over. But we kept plugging away, and ended up getting a nice, comfortable win by the score line anyway. Got to be happy with that. It does mean that we are finishing above Arsenal again. So no St Totteringham's Day for them, which for me, to be perfectly honest with you, I wasn't really bothered about. I'm not concerned as to whether we finish above them or not. I'm more concerned about my own team than their team. They are who they are. They are where they are. They're going through a really tough time, and finishing above them is not that much to shout about, to be fair, finishing in 7th. But it does mean that we've got to go into the Europa Conference League, and I know absolutely jack about it. So maybe I'll do some investigating and try to find out as much as I can about it, and then present my feelings and my views on that as time goes on, because I now need to find out, because I didn't know anything about it previously. We do finish below West Ham, and that's the first time that's happened for 7 years, I believe. And at that point, that was when they pipped us by goal difference to nick 10th place. So again, hardly really worth shouting about. Great for them, great for their fans. For them to be able to get into the Europa League is a massive achievement for them, and shows that if you stick with your manager and get some togetherness, then you can get somewhere. So fair play to them. That pains me to say that, because obviously not a West Ham fan, and they hate us more than anything. But it is what it is. They're above us, and we're kind of going to have to live with that. A couple of things just to pick out about today's game, though. Jamie Vardy. What's everyone's view of Jamie Vardy today? Cheat or not a cheat? Just a canny player, or is he just a cheating git who managed to fool the referee a couple of times? My personal view, really disappointed with the second one. To be honest, really disappointed with that, because for me, it looked a lot like Jamie Vardy was reaching out and grabbing hold of Sanchez. Sanchez is stupid enough to get his arms tangled up with him, and to go down, and allow him to get that penalty. It's clever play, I guess, but for me, it's cheating. It's cheating all day long. But that's football these days, and I guess if it was for us, we'd take it, wouldn't we? I guess we wouldn't really complain about it. The both penalties he struck really well, scored them, and left Hugo no chance on either of them. The first one looked to me like he kicked Alderweireld rather than Alderweireld, trying to kick him over or knock him over. But if you're I guess if you're running and the angles that they're showing, if you're putting your leg backwards and you get kicked in it, then again, he's going to go over and it's going to be a penalty. I personally felt it was more of a penalty than the second one. But clever play really from him ultimately, but it is cheating. And you know what they say about cheats? They never prosper, and that's why they ended up losing 4-2. Nothing to do with us being lucky and getting a couple of goals. But it is what it is. So Jamie Vardy, looking at the comments, second penalty was a joke. From James is saying, Mark, Vardy is borderline cheat, but our players were gullible enough to fall for it. Exactly that. Lapper's view is intelligent. Well, yeah, maybe, mate. But it's just really annoying for me as an old football fan. I'd much rather see a lot more physicality in a game than that, to be honest. So, yeah, not not very happy about it. But there you go. It is what it is. Also, Schmeichel coming out for the goal that Sanchez allegedly scored. I'm not sure he did. It didn't look to me like he got much of his head on it, but he did claim the goal. And he came he came out for it, and they're saying that he was held off or whatever. But to me, he's coming straight out. He goes straight into our player. So I mean, what's he supposed to do? Just get out of the way just because it's a goalkeeper? I don't think so. I think he's got every right to hold his ground there, and and take the opportunities as it presents itself. So I'm more than happy with that. Happy with that goal, and and to be fair, seeing Bale score the fourth one was lovely. Playing a 1-2 off the post, he's very cool. That's probably his last goal for us. I don't know whether he's going to stay next season. I don't know what anybody else thinks about that. Would you want him to? What's the view? Do you want Gareth Bale to stay, or do you think, we've had what we can out of him, and he weren't all that at the end of the day? So that's a big question. One for you guys to have a think about. My old mate Jason says, not happy with Thursdays and Sundays, but happy to be above the goons. Yeah, agree. Thursdays and Sundays ain't great, especially having go to work on a Monday, having travelled up on a Sunday. So maybe not too many days on the fun bus, and maybe more time travelling up in the car, just so as I can get back early enough to get up early in the morning. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I guess it's one of those things that we'll have to live with. Lisbon Grove 1954. It might not mean much to you, Lee, but finishing above Arsenal is heaven. Yeah, I get but ultimately the reason why I say that is that they were above us for 20 years or something. So many seasons above us and everything. But as a Tottenham fan, it didn't mean anything to me. The fact that they were above us, I mean, that's gone. What does that count for? Nothing really. It don't really count for anything. They were able to have some gloating, but for me, I kind of just turned my back on it. But in a season where you've got nothing and gone nowhere, being above your local rival is about as good as it gets, I guess. Okay, what's this one here? Need a massive clear out this summer. Absolutely need a massive clear out this summer. I think, to be fair, most players have been slated by one fan or another at some point, I guess. But for me, there are some real stick out players that really need replacing. Aurier, number one for me. Got to go. We've got to improve that position. That is, an out and out struggle for us, in my view. As much as I like Japhet Tanganga, I don't believe that that's his position. For me, I believe he is a centre back. And so when you're looking at releasing players from the defence for me, Dyer, who's had a terrible season, and would probably be better off going back to somewhere in Portugal where he can command a better position. I think he needs to go for sure. We need a replacement for Toby because he's obviously not getting any younger. So for me, I think he needs to have someone come in for. Not necessarily saying that he needs to go, but certainly we need someone to be in there to cover for him or to learn from him. But I think Tanganga could be that guy that we put in there, and I was hoping. That Sanchez was going to be better than he has been, but today he was at fault. He got turned so easy. He got caught out by Vardy too easy. I mean, Vardy's 34. He drinks, he smokes, he goes out clubbing. He barely trains, and yet his pace and his intelligence, ripped Sanchez a new one. So for me, he's another one who's got to go. But then we have got Roden and we have got Tanganga, who I think could be quality. A lot of people wanting to get rid of Foyth. But my point about that is, did he really get an opportunity? He's done well at Villarreal, I believe. He's done really well. So, is he worth giving another opportunity to and seeing how he gets on? He did make a couple of errors early on in his career, but he's got good feet. He likes to take it on. He likes to attack. So there is a possibility there, but it's definitely a position that needs strengthening for me. Left-sided, I still feel Reguilon we should keep hold of. I still think there is potential there. I think he needs to work on his right foot and some of his decision making. You've got Sessegnon who could come back, and I know people were slating Ben Davies, but Ben Davies from a defensive point of view, when you need to have someone who can just out and out defend, I think he gives you that option. And if you have to go to a back three, he gives you a left-footed player in that back three. I think he's quite universal. You could get some more out of him. I know he's been injured this season, but he does get a lot of stick because he's not adventurous. But sometimes you don't need all of your left backs to be that adventurous. You need to have other options. Winks, Sissoko, definitely have had their time and need replacing, need improving. I'm still not sure about Lo Celso and Ndombele, about what to think about those guys. Interesting that neither of them were deemed fit enough to play today or be in the squad today. That's really interesting. A lot of money have been invested in those two, and they have shown some glimpses of ability. Are we giving up on them too easily? I don't know. What do you guys think? And then there is the big question about Dele. What happens about him? What should we do about him? Do we need to move him on? Do we need to cash in? Does he need a new challenge? As much as it pains me to say, I think he probably does. I think he probably needs to go somewhere else, maybe Italian football or Spanish football, where he gets a bit more time on the ball and he can get out there and show off his silky skills and try and build some confidence up. But for me, he's not currently built for a Premier League battle, and that's where we're heading at the moment. Mark has mentioned Skip for next season, which I think is a great shout. He's done really well at Norwich, and I think everybody's really keen to see him come back and see what he does. So there is some young talent coming through, and I guess the biggest question about the summer is what happens about Harry Kane. So I put out a video a while ago saying, until I see Harry Kane actually say, I want to go, then I won't believe it. I've seen the video of him playing golf with Gary Neville. Still didn't say he wants to go. What he said was he needs to get some regular football. He needs to get into a position where he can win trophies as a team and so on. And he wants to have a conversation with the chairman. So, okay, let's have a conversation with the chairman. Let's hear what he says about manager. Let's hear what he has to say about players. Let's hear what he's got about his vision for Harry and all the rest of it. He's got 3 years left on his contract. So until Harry comes out and says, I definitely want to go, then I'm going to assume that he's staying. and he's just being unsettled. I don't think he's the sort of player. I heard it quoted about Modric going on a sulk and Bale going on a sulk when we were to let them go. Yeah, but is Harry Kane that kind of player? Is he that kind of person? I'd like to think he isn't. I'd like to think he isn't that sort of bloke. So we'll see. We'll see where that comes out at. So there's my thoughts on a few of those. I think we have got a decent squad. It's just they're not playing to the potential that you want them to. And we can all say this player ain't good enough. But would you take West Ham's team as in individual players versus our players? The fact that they've played really well together and managed to get what they've done, would you really swap Tottenham's players for West Ham's players for the long term to be the ones that take you further? I would argue that you probably wouldn't. You might look at Leicester, some of the Leicester players, players like Maddison and Tielemans and Schmeichel and players like that, and go, there's some good talent in there who have finished above us. And the same with Arsenal. I mean, I look at Arsenal's team, and I don't think there's any in there that I would really, really want in my team, to enhance it. So, that's just my thoughts. Let's go a quick gander back at some of the comments. What's this guy saying? That Spurs guy, Hotspurs guy, let Redknapp take charge next season and bleed the youth into the Conference League, and then Levy grovel at Pooch's feet for his return. I don't think that's going to happen to you. To be honest with you, I don't think that's going to happen. I've not bumped into Harry down the beach for a while. Maybe I'll go around and have a word, find out what his view is. But going backwards for me is not the answer. I don't think that's where we want to go. Is it? I don't know. Maybe you guys are. How popular is Harry Redknapp to come back? Not likable fella and all the rest of it, but is he really just not all about Harry? Nice fella, but when it comes to football, he's like, it's all about what Harry does. Lappers, I see Spammers put a tweet out saying Spurs fans getting excited about a rebuild. Yeah, it took them 8 years to replace Gareth Bale with Gareth Bale. Yeah, I don't think they've really got a lot to shout about, have they? It's their best season for 8 years. It's their best achievement for 8 years. They ain't won anything since 1980. So West Ham giving it a big I am is probably not something I'd be too bothered about. C says feels dirty giving Chelsea a favour. Yeah, well, it's going to happen, isn't it? There's always someone going to come out of it better than you. You want them to. You can't always have it your own way. The only way to do that is to win the league yourself and then be better than all of them. Luke, what are you saying, Luke? Here's me being a Spurs fan and my brother is a Leicester fan. Hard lines to my brother. Okay. Grandpa Stevens, what are you saying, son? I wouldn't want Harry back at the Joel Redknapp years were some of the best times I've had watching football. Yeah, it was, but you never knew whether you were going to win or lose, to be fair, and whether you were going to get into the top four or not. Harry was stitched up by Chelsea with the Champions League business. Otherwise, he'd have got 2 top 4 finishes. But Harry thought he had the England job. And because he thought that, he took his eye off the ball, wouldn't sign a contract when it was offered to him. And so he kind of reaped what he sowed, really. But, that's just the way it is, I guess. So Lappers is saying the next manager has got to be the right decision. Absolutely has to be the right decision. And it's the thing that we're all talking about all the time, isn't it? Who's going to be the next manager and what's it going to bring? Everybody calling out about Brendan Rodgers. But Brendan Rodgers has just bottled the top 4 with a Leicester team that have been in the top 4 for 30 weeks. So, is he the right man? That might be a little bit controversial because I know there are lots of people out there that really do rate him. So just going through just to see what other people have said, just in case I've missed it, guys. So okay, finishing above Arsenal, a very terrible Arsenal isn't something to cheer about, considering where we are at one point. We've become the new Woolwich celebrating top four finishes higher than them. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the point, I guess, that I was trying to make, is that, you think Arsenal were in the Champions League for 20 plus years, got to one final, never won it. And so what did that do for them? It created a lot of money to put into the club, but what have they done with it? They're in no better position than we are. So, carrying on along that road, are we ending up, being the same as them? Just being happy to be in the top four. For me, if you're going to be in the top four and in the Champions League, you want to be winning the Champions League. That's the whole point of it. There's no point being in it if you're not going to win it, is there? What's the point of that? You're just trying to earn some more money to maybe buy some more players, or to pay them more wages or whatever. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. This Europa Conference thing that we're going into now, how is how does that work? Does that lead to something else? Is that just a trophy on its own? I don't know. I need to find out. That you guys might even know, but that's something I think we need to find out. Because if you're in it, and it produces a trophy at the end of it, even if it is a tin pot trophy, I'd much rather win a tin pot trophy than win nothing, because it's something to put in the cabinet and to build upon. So for me, that's the point of it. It's like the Europa League. There's no point being in the Europa League if you're not going to try and win it. Manchester United are in the final. If they win it, how great is that going to be for them? If they don't win it, it's going to be a crap season, isn't it? Because all they've done is become the first losers to Manchester City. That's pretty much it. What have they really got to shout about? It's all about the silverware, isn't it? That's the whole point from a fan's perspective anyway. Okay, Ask Arthur. Well, welcome, Arthur. In case you guys don't know, Arthur has his own YouTube channel. You might want to pop over and have a look and see what he has to say. He's been putting some videos up recently, so worth a shout out and see what he's having to say. Now we'll see what Levy will do and how high he will take us. Yeah, I mean that's the issue, isn't it? What is Daniel Levy going to do now? We're talking about getting a high class manager, a manager who's going to take us somewhere. And yet we had Mourinho who didn't take us anywhere and ended up in tears. And now Levy's talking about getting someone in who understands the DNA of Tottenham and bring back the sort of football that we really want. We really want to see. But who's that going to be? How's that going to work out? And at the same time as doing that, is he going to spend the money he needs to bring us in the players that we want, that are going to be able to produce that kind of football and win us those trophies? Paul, happy for Mason, who has handled a very troubled time well. For a young man, he showed himself in good light, even beating the poster boy Rodgers at their ground, whose team lost to us and Newcastle 4-2. Yeah, to be fair to Ryan Mason and the guys that have been around him, I don't think he's handled himself particularly badly. I think there's a couple of bits and pieces that I've heard him say and talk, and he kind of just comes across as a little bit of a firms man. Daniel Levy's doing a great job and all the rest of it. He's trying really hard to maybe get the job or whatever. But in terms of dealing with the press over the Harry Kane situation and stuff like that, I thought was quite good. I'm sure he's got a future in football as a manager. I'm just not sure that at this moment in time, it's what Tottenham need. If I look at the team selection today, and I know there was players out injured and not fit enough and all the rest of it, but that team looked set for losing. You're bringing in Sanchez, so you're changing the back four again. And as much as I really didn't want Dyer in there, bringing in Sanchez is almost a downgrade. on Dyer, to be fair. So that kind of worries me a little bit when he's making them kind of decisions. And Winks, of course, is in there again, who's had a terrible season. He's had a terrible season. I loved Harry Winks. I watched him when he took the ball off of Messi. At Wembley that time, and we were all like, "Whoa, Harry Winks, he's the man," and all the rest of it. But that's not happening, is it? He's not that player, and I just don't think that's that. So I look at that and I go, surely there must have been other options in there. What's going on that Ndombele and Lo Celso and Sissoko are all not fit enough to play? Well, what they've been doing all week? What they've been out on a bender or what? What's going on? It's just crazy. So. I don't know. I don't know what I don't know what the answer to that is. But to be fair, Ryan Mason, he's a good guy. He's a Tottenham guy. And he obviously wants to do well for us. But he is a little bit of a firms man, I think, and a little bit green around the gills in terms of football management at the moment. So maybe in time that's something we can do. Excuse me. Got a bit of a cough. Grandpa Stevens, we can't afford to take a hit on next season to bed Mason in. We are already well behind the competition thanks to Levy not properly investing in the team. We need a miracle worker again, in all honesty. Yeah, probably. The Spurs guy, that's United's second Europa final in 4 years. Yeah, but at the end of the day, they've got to win it still, haven't they? And they haven't yet. So let's hope they don't. How terrible is that? Let's hope they don't win it. I don't want them to win anything. I want both Chelsea and Manchester City to both lose the Champions League final as well. Because I don't want any English teams winning anything. I'm not really interested in any of that. But that's just me, bitter and twisted old Tottenham fan, isn't it? So. I don't know. The other thing I just wanted to pick up while we're chatting, and thanks for the comments, guys, because it does give me bits and pieces that I can pick up and talk to you about. Someone tweeted a guy called Senk or Kenk. I don't know. He's on Twitter anyway, and he tweeted earlier on today. 119 trophies won by ex-Spurs players since 2008 when we last won a trophy. So I went through the list because he actually listed all of the players and all that and said these are all the players that have won all these cups. And to be fair, from his list, and I'm not sure how accurate his list is, but he's got Berbatov down for 3 Premier Leagues, Walker down for 3 Premier Leagues, 1 FA Cup and 4 League Cups, and Modric and Bale both with 4 Champions Leagues each. Okay, all the other cups, all the other silverware, and all the rest of it are La Liga or the Dutch league. I can't say that. The Czech league, the Israeli league, the Portuguese league. So the MLS even. Am I really bothered? Am I really bothered about the MLS? No, I'm sorry, I'm not. I don't care whether Robbie Keane won the MLS Cup. I couldn't give a monkey's. It means nothing. And if you asked all of those players that have won all that silverware, they'd all say, yeah, okay, they won it. But they would have rather have won the Premier League, or they'd have rather won the Champions League. So with the exception of Berbatov, Walker, Modric and Bale from his list, I don't look at it and think, well, wow, 119 all winning all these trophies and that. And if you said to Harry Kane, do you fancy winning the Portuguese league or the Israeli league or a couple of MLS Cups? Do you think he'd really be that bothered? I don't think so somehow. So all this 119 trophies and all this doom and gloom is really just doom and gloom for me. I'm really not bothered one way or the other. But it's a good stat, I guess. It's worth noting that all these players have gone off to win other stuff. It'd be interesting to see how many players for Everton, West Ham, Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United, or any of these other players, other clubs. How many of their players have gone on and won the Portuguese league? I'm just saying. Ask Arthur says that Doherty, I thought Doherty had a good game. Yeah, I agree. And to be fair, he's been written off as absolute rubbish. But actually, when we first started the league, I felt that he was playing okay. He was doing well. And for some reason, Aurier got back into the team and started to put in some performances, possibly because he was actually being challenged for his position rather than being the best there is at the club. And from that moment, Doherty has kind of gone downhill again, and we haven't seen him in any kind of um, long period, or he's had an odd game here and there. So it was quite interesting today to see him get a game because obviously Tanganga is injured and Aurier is injured as well. So it's quite interesting to see him play. And I don't think he did too much wrong. To be fair, for me, all the problems seem to come straight down the middle when we had Sanchez, struggling against Jamie Vardy. Apart from that, I felt that we were fairly okay. The overall. I mean, to be fair, the overall performance today, on the whole, wasn't that bad. I've seen far better. There was as I said at the beginning, it was very lackluster and didn't seem to really give a monkeys. And for a couple of dubious, in my opinion, penalties. Dubious. A bit of poetic license, with a little bit of poetic license in that. I didn't think they really did that much to us. But we've got to get a better cutting edge. But for me, it's all about our midfield. Up front, I think when you look at Harry Kane and Son and Bow and Dele and all that as it is, they should be battering teams. But if they're not getting any service, that's where the problem lies. And then if the other team can run straight through your midfield to a very shaky defence, you're asking for trouble, aren't you? You're absolutely asking for trouble. Mark Cave, who's the favourite to manage us? Like to give Eddie Howe a go. Always plays good football. I don't know, to be honest with you. I know that with Nuno leaving Wolves has kind of thrown the cat amongst the pigeons from a Sky Bet point of view. Although Fabrizio Romano, who's supposedly well respected in football journalist, and I don't know the guy, and I don't tend to listen too much to it, but he's saying that he's definitely not one of the people that Spurs are looking at. So it still seems the constants in there still seem to be Potter. Brendan Rodgers doesn't seem to be going away in terms of his name, even though he said he don't want it. But then also, is it Allegri or something? I don't know, some guy in Italy somewhere. I don't know. But then every manager out there has been chucked in the mix, I guess. I was talking to my boy today when we was watching the football, and he's another one who's a big Eddie Howe fan. And listen, I like Eddie Howe. His style of play is very attacking. He's very, he likes to go for it and win the game and try to keep it fluid and lots of movement. But he's never had an opportunity at a big club. He's always been at Bournemouth. I think he went to somewhere up north. And I'm sure someone told me it was Burnley, but I'm not 100% sure of that. And had an absolute nightmare. Came back to Bournemouth and took them all the way into the Premier League and kept them there for a season or so. So for me, if you're going to go for a young English manager with some Premier League experience, then I wouldn't put him out of the race. But then there's no different to Graham Potter or to Scott Parker, who have also managed in the Premier League now and have played some decent football. Albeit Fulham getting relegated. It's a really difficult one. It is a strange situation because you just don't know what you're going to get until it comes. You've had one of the most decorated football managers in the country, or in the world rather, as your manager, and it's really gone bad, right? So who's to say a project manager coming in who's got something to prove, who's young and enthusiastic, might not do better. You just don't know. You could bring this guy in who's unproven or whatever, and he could do a fantastic job. Equally, they could come in and it could be a nightmare, because for me, a lot of this is about the players and the backing and all the rest of it. So it's, for me, it's not just about who the manager is. It's about what the infrastructure is going to look like. Are we going to have a director of football, for instance, which I think is an absolute must, someone to take on board the face of football for Tottenham rather than Daniel Levy. He needs to, because he's become such a toxic and divisive figure, he needs to step back for me, and give somebody else, at the front, so that they can concentrate on business affairs. Because, as I've said a couple of times, from a business point of view, they've done a fantastic job, on all the rest of it. But as a fan, I don't give a monkeys. I don't care. I don't care about, the great facilities. I don't. I'm sorry. I care about winning trophies and seeing great football. That's what I'm interested in. So are we going to get a director of football in, someone who knows football, someone who can get hold of the scouting team and get, some up and coming talent, but as well as some proven quality that can walk straight into your first team? That's the important thing to me. And then your manager, to manage those people, should be around that. And then that just depends on the type of manager you get to manage those people. For me, it's a lot about people skills and man management skills rather than tactical nous. You need to have tactical nous to know how the game's played and what you need to do and how teams play. But you get a whole team of people around you that do lots of that stuff, stats and this player and that player, and scouts that watch the other teams and all the rest of it. You don't have to know all of that. What you have to know is, how do I get the best out of the players that I've got? Who's the best player in what position? How are we going to set up, and that kind of stuff? But a lot of that relies on your man management to get the best out of the team around you. And I'm not just talking about the team of players. So for me, in terms of manager, it could be anybody. Lisbon Grove is saying Graham Potter is the man for him. A lot of Sabir saying Scotty Parker. And Graham Merry saying that, what's that? Just read it on there. Isn't Levy the director of football? No, he's not a director of football. He is the chairman of the club. He can't be a director of football because he's not a football man. For me, he might give himself that title, but doesn't mean he is the man for us. Bielsa, another name. Bielsa for 2 seasons, followed by a top manager. I don't think you're going to get Bielsa. He is a top manager. He's done fantastic at Leeds, and you can't knock that. But I don't think he's going to want to come to Tottenham. Especially with Leeds doing so well and what he's got them doing and all the rest of it. I think that's very, very hopeful that something like that. Okay, what's this? Grandpa Stevens just checking back. So Doherty and Reggie would probably do well in a back five where they have freedom to go forward. Just a shame we can't get Conte in. We don't have that kind of pull. I don't know. Conte, I think, would probably be the sort of manager you would be able to get. I'm not saying we will get, but he's another one that probably would come. He won the Premier League with Chelsea. He's probably, in his own mind, maybe he's got a little bit of unfinished business to be able to go along and show what he's got. But yeah, going to Doherty, back five, sort of going forward. Yeah, absolutely. But you've got to have those 3 centre backs that are going to be solid, real solid guys that are going to be able to cover that whole ground that's going to be left by them kind of bombing forward and leaving gaps. So yeah, I don't know. So from a manager's point of view, it's all up in the air until we know. We just don't know. We don't know what Levy's thinking Yeah, Diego Simeone is another one. So yeah, there are some top quality coaches out there, but again, Simeone, he's not Premier League proven. Could he do it? Maybe. I'm not sure about these guys in terms of their man management, because, as I say, for me, that is where we need to focus. Is how we manage the players that we've got. Trouble with Levy is the transfer market landscape has changed and he hasn't adapted to it. We can't operate the way we used to and hope to be successful anymore. You've got to spend to compete. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, since Sky took over the Premier League, that's always been the case. You know, it's always been about money, isn't it? You know, whoever's got the most money gets the best players. Whoever pays the most money gets the best players, and off you go, and you everybody else is chasing. Over the course of time, I think a lot of it's got a little bit closer. There, you know, you think the top four is now open a little bit more. You know, you've got teams that were competing for top four today that hadn't before. You know, and teams that have been in the top four that hadn't. You know, including ourselves. So there is a lot of whilst the gap is massive to win it, the gap to get into the elite areas, even like the top six and stuff, you know, that has shown that can be done by lots of clubs kind of getting in now, even West Ham, you know, to be fair, you know, getting into Europe. So it shows that you can get somewhere, but not necessarily win it unless you're spending big time. And then that kind of leads on to where do we get that money from? Do we get that money from selling the likes of Kane, Dele, you know, Son, those players, and then go on another very, very painful rebuild? Unless you know you've got something really special coming in behind Kane, then if you lose him, you're going to have to pay what you've spent or what you've been given for him to get someone of that quality back in to keep you where you are. Otherwise, if you lose someone like Kane, you're back scratching around the mid-table to the bottom again. You know, and who wants that? You know. Champagne football and lemonade prices. Yeah, absolutely. Well said. That was. What do you think is realistic for next season if Harry Kane does leave? Survival. Yeah, not getting relegated. It's probably where I would pitch it. I know it's being over dramatic. I know it, but for me, I want us to be at the top. But if you're losing you're losing your top player. What are you going to replace him with? As I've just said, you've got to spend what you've got for him to get anyone half decent. We've been scratching around for years to try to get a backup for Harry Kane, and when we've got one in Carlos Vinicius, he's never playing. He can't get a game. He can't get a game. Even when Kane's injured, he can't get a game. So it does make you wonder, who's out there that can come in and do that job that Harry Kane's been doing for us, because we pretty much have been, as Pep says, the Harry Kane team for so long. So yeah, I think if we lose Kane, it's going to be a very, very difficult season next season, one that we've really, really got to adapt to. But as I'm just a guy who watches it on the TV or watches it on the terraces. What do I know? Well, I don't see the players day in, day out, work with them and see how they get on with each other and the quality of their training and all the rest of it. That's what the coaches do. That's what the manager does. So they're a lot closer to it, and they're in a better position to explain why they make the decisions they do and why they bring players in that they do. So what's it say here? When my dad was knocking around, he was a Chelsea fan. Back then, the bragging rights were who could finish 12th. This season has been bad, but let's not forget where we've come from. Could be worse. Yeah, it could be worse. We've been through some dire days, haven't we? As Tottenham fans, let's be honest with you, since the 80s, we've never really done anything, an odd cup, you know, once every 10 years, he's just about as good as it gets. And winning cup competitions is hard. You know, it's not as easy as you want it to be. You've got to have a bit of the luck, you know, a bit of rub of the green, haven't you, to try and get somewhere. But, you know, unfortunately, once you're in a club, you love this club, and that's it. You're stuck with it forever, and you're never going to give it up, are you? You know, you're never going to stop supporting Tottenham, whatever happens. They're your club. They're in your heart, and as much as you despise them at times, you still love them as well. You know, you're still gonna wear your colours and so on. And we can be as moody and as miserable as we like, but come next season, we'll all be back in the stands and back in our seats and back in the LTs and Billy Nick, hopefully, to watch the games live again and have a proper moan, you know. So, but yeah. So anyway, look, we've been on for 46 minutes. I'm sure you're all bored with hearing my constant chatter. It's been great to speak to you all over the last few days. Having done these live streams has been a bit of fun. I've actually quite enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to. So thank you all for supporting me. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. If you don't subscribe to the channel, can you please subscribe? Because I'm desperately trying to get some credibility here. Trying to get to 1,000, which gives you a little bit of credibility. You're able to say, "Well, I've got 1,000 subscribers, guys. You know, I'm not just Tim Pot." You know, I've got a few people that do like what I say. So anyway, if you're not subscribing to the channel, please do. That will really, really, really help me. I'd appreciate it. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to play my intro at the end, just because I liked it, and I hope you liked it as well. And I'll see you. I'll probably still put out a little bit of content over the next couple of days, depending on what's happening. And hopefully, once I know a little bit about this conference, Europa conference stuff, maybe I'll do something on that. And maybe not so regular live stream, but maybe we can catch up from time to time, you know, an odd, once every couple of weeks or so, just to have a chat about how you guys are all feeling. So again, thanks very much for subscribing. If you have, thanks for coming along today and chatting with me. Appreciate all your questions and everything else. And as I say always, up the Spurs.